The void between stars held secrets that humanity was only beginning to understand. Aboard the HSS Artemis, Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the distant shimmer of the Lyra Nebula. The exploration vessel's mission had been simple: chart unexplored systems, establish diplomatic contacts, and expand humanity's understanding of their galactic neighbors. But the universe had other plans. "Captain," Lieutenant Marcus Wong's voice crackled through the ship's comm system. "We're picking up something unusual on the long-range sensors. Well, you should see this yourself." The bridge of the Artemis hummed with activity as Sarah entered. Holographic displays showed a cascade of data streams, but it was the central screen that caught her attention. A signal, weak but persistent, pulsed in regular intervals. "It's been repeating for the last 20 minutes, Marcus explained, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "At first, we thought it was background radiation, but there's a pattern. It's definitely artificial." Dr. Emily Harrison, the ship's xenolinguist, was already working on the transmission. Her augmented reality interface projected symbols and wavelengths around her as she processed the signal. "This isn't like anything in our database," she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "But there's something familiar about the emotional markers." The bridge crew watched as Emily's expression shifted from concentration to horror. "Captain, this is a distress signal. But it's not just any distress signal. It's coming from children." Sarah felt her spine stiffen. "Children? Are you certain?" "The frequency patterns match those used by developing minds," Emily confirmed, her voice tight. "It's a psychic broadcast, similar to what we've encountered in other telepathic species. But this is raw, desperate." Commander David Okafor, Sarah's second-in-command, stepped forward. "We're well outside our designated patrol route. This could be beyond our jurisdiction." "When it comes to children in danger, there is no jurisdiction," Sarah replied, her decision already made. "Plot a course to the signal's origin. But keep us at a safe distance. We need to understand what we're dealing with first." As the Artemis changed course, the ship's AI, began compiling data from their surroundings. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the direction of the distress signal. They're consistent with large-scale industrial activity, but there's something off about the patterns." The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. The Artemis approached cautiously, using its advanced stealth systems to avoid detection. What they found in the Lyran system would haunt the crew for years to come. A massive space station orbited a small moon, its architecture alien and unsettling. But it wasn't the station's size that caused the crew's collective breath to catch. It was the steady stream of transport ships moving between the station and the planet below. Each ship's energy signature was masked, but ARIA's enhanced sensors cut through the deception. "Life signs," the AI reported, its usual calm voice carrying an edge of concern. "Each transport contains approximately 50 small life forms. Children based on their biological signatures. They're being taken from the planet's surface to that station." Sarah's hands gripped the command console. "Show me the planet." The main screen filled with images of a world that had clearly known better days. Cities lay in various states of ruin, while massive extraction facilities dotted the landscape. But it was the movement patterns that told the real story. Groups of armed vessels herding civilians, systematic sweeps of residential areas. The brutal efficiency of an operation that had clearly been refined over years. "I'm picking up communications," Emily announced. 2 distinct languages. One belongs to the native population, the Lyrani. They're a peaceful species, primarily telepathic. The others." She paused, her face pale. "They call themselves the Nexer Collective. They're harvesting the children." "Harvesting." David's voice was sharp with disbelief. Emily nodded, her hands trembling slightly as she translated more of the intercepted communications. "The Nexer have developed a way to extract and store neural energy. They believe that developing minds, especially those with telepathic capabilities, produce the purest form of this energy. They're not just taking the children, they're processing them, using them as batteries. A heavy silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the soft beep of monitoring equipment. Sarah Chen had seen much in her years of space exploration, but this was different. This was evil in its purest form, systematized and industrialized. "How long?" she asked quietly. "How long has this been happening?" ARI's response was prompt but grim. "Based on the degradation patterns of the planet's infrastructure and the efficiency of the current operation, I estimate this has been ongoing for approximately 15 Earth years." Sarah straightened, her decision made. Send an encrypted burst transmission to Earth Command. Full situation report, including all sensor data and communications intercepts. Request immediate backup. She turned to her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. But we're not waiting for a response. "Captain." David stepped closer, his voice low. "What are you thinking?" "The Nexer don't know we're here," Sarah said, her mind already forming plans. "They don't know humans exist, or what we're capable of. That's our advantage." She turned to her crew, her voice carrying the weight of command and conviction. "We can't save every child in the galaxy, but the ones here, right now, those we can help, those we must help." Emily's console chimed, drawing their attention. "Captain, I'm picking up new transmissions, a resistance movement among the Lyrani. They're fighting back, but they're outmatched. The Nexer's technology is centuries ahead of theirs, but not ours," Sarah replied, a grim smile forming on her face. "Contact the resistance. Let them know they're not alone anymore. The children of Lyra have been suffering in silence for 15 years, but that ends today. Humanity has arrived, and we do not take kindly to those who prey on the innocent." As the crew began their preparations, Sarah returned to the observation deck. The Lyra Nebula shimmered in the distance, its beauty masking the horrors that had been allowed to flourish in its shadow. But that was about to change. Humanity had stumbled upon this atrocity by chance, but they would end it by choice. The HSS Artemis hung silent in space, its crew preparing for a battle that would shake the foundations of an empire built on suffering. They were outnumbered and far from home, but they carried with them something the Nexer Collective couldn't understand: the unshakable human conviction that protecting the innocent was worth any price. The Lyrani resistance base was hidden deep within the crystalline mountains of their homeworld, its entrance concealed by sophisticated holographic technology. Captain Sarah Chen stood before the Resistance Council, her uniform pristine despite the grueling 3-day journey through Nexer patrol zones to reach this sanctuary. "Your arrival was unexpected," said Elder Vress, the resistance leader. His translucent skin shimmed with bioluminescent patterns that reflected his cautious hope. "In 15 cycles, no outside force has challenged the Nexer. Most species simply look away. Humanity doesn't look away from atrocity," Sarah responded, her voice firm. "We're here to help, but we need to understand exactly what we're facing." The council chamber darkened as holographic images filled the air around them. Dr. Emily Harrison watched intently as the Lyrani shared their historical records, her xenolinguistics implant working overtime to process the complex emotional undertones in their telepathic language. "The Nexer arrived as traders," Elder Vress explained, his patterns dimming with sorrow. "They offered technology, medical advances, cultural exchange. We welcome them." The holograms showed peaceful first contact scenes that made Sarah's heart ache for what was to come. Then they discovered our children's unique neural resonance. Commander David Okafor studied the tactical displays with growing concern. "Their neural harvesting facilities are more extensive than we initially thought. This isn't just one processing station, it's a network." The holograms shifted to show massive underground complexes beneath the main facilities. Lieutenant Marcus Wong, monitoring the data stream from the Artemis, added his analysis through their secure channel. "These facilities are linked by quantum tunnels. They can transfer processed neural energy instantly across their entire network." "How many children?" Sarah asked, though she dreaded the answer. In the primary facility alone, we estimate 3,000, Elder Vress replied, his voice heavy. Across all facilities, perhaps 15,000. The Nexer's appetite for neural energy is endless. When our population began to decline, they started raiding other worlds. Emily's hands clenched at her sides. The children in the processing chambers, are they still alive? Yes. The answer came from Kyra, a young Lyrani scientist whose own child had been taken. The Nexer's process requires living minds. They keep the children in stasis, drawing off their neural energy slowly to maximize extraction. Each child lasts about 1 standard year before. Sarah raised her hand, stopping the explanation. She'd heard enough. Show me your current defense capabilities. Sarah called to the ship's AI. Show them what we found in the quantum signature analysis. New holograms appeared, showing complex energy patterns. The Nexer's neural network has a fundamental flaw, Ariad explained. Their quantum tunnels require precise harmonic alignment to transfer energy. Disrupt that alignment, and the entire network collapses, Marcus finished. But more importantly, the safety protocols would engage. All stasis chambers would initiate emergency revival procedures to prevent neural decay. Hope flickered across Elder Vress's bioluminescent patterns. You can do this. We can, Sarah confirmed. But revival is just the first step. We need a way to evacuate thousands of children before the Nexer can reestablish control. And we need to do it simultaneously across all facilities, or they'll simply transfer the children through their quantum network. David brought up a new tactical display. We've identified 7 primary processing facilities. Each one will need a strike team. We can provide the technology and tactical support, but we'll need your people's knowledge of the facility's layouts. My people will fight, Elder Vress declared, his patterns blazing with determination. But even with your help, many of us will not survive this. Sarah stepped forward, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's promise. On Earth, our homeworld, we have a saying: the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. Your children have suffered long enough. We'll face whatever comes together. The next hours were a blur of planning and preparation. The Artemis's fabrication units worked at maximum capacity, producing quantum disruptors designed to interface with Lyrani technology. Emily and Kira worked to create a neural dampening field that would protect the rescued children from psychic shock during revival. Marcus coordinated with resistance cells across the planet, synchronizing their communications for the coming attack. In her quiet moments, Sarah found herself drawn to the resistance base's memorial wall. Thousands of holographic images showed the faces of taken children, each one a testament to the Nexer's cruelty. She studied those faces, burning them into her memory. This wasn't just about saving those who remained. It was about justice for those already lost. We're ready, David reported late on the 4th day. The plan was set. Strike teams were in position. The quantum disruptors were distributed. Everything hinged on perfect timing and the hope that the Nexer's arrogance had made them complacent. Sarah looked around the command center they'd established in the resistance base. Human and Lyrani worked side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of their shared purpose. This was humanity at its best, standing up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves, facing impossible odds because it was the right thing to do. Send the signal, she ordered. All teams, execute Operation Sanctuary. Let's show the Nexer what happens when they prey on children in a galaxy where humanity exists. As the strike teams moved into position, Sarah thought about the message they'd sent to Earth Command. Help would come, eventually. But the children couldn't wait. Sometimes, doing the right thing meant acting alone. Consequences be damned. The Nexer were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their absolute refusal to accept the suffering of innocent children, no matter the cost to themselves. Darkness shrouded the approach of 7 strike teams as they moved toward their targets across the Lyrani world. Captain Sarah Chen monitored their progress from the makeshift command center, her eyes fixed on the tactical display where 7 green dots pulsed steadily. Each dot represented not just a team, but hope for thousands of imprisoned children. Strike Team Alpha. In position, came David Okafor's whispered report through the quantum-encrypted comm channel. His team would hit the primary facility, the largest of the neural processing centers. No patrol activity detected. Looks like the Nexer's overconfidence is working in our favor. One by one, the other teams reported ready. Sarah glanced at Elder Vress, whose bioluminescent patterns had dimmed to near invisibility, a sign of extreme focus among his people. Begin Phase 1, she ordered. Across 7 locations, human technology merged with Lyrani determination. The quantum disruptors, disguised as maintenance drones, attached themselves to the facility's outer walls. Each one began emitting a precise frequency designed to interfere with the Nexer's neural network. Energy fluctuations detected in the quantum tunnels, Marcus reported from the Artemis, which hung in high orbit under stealth protocols. The network is starting to destabilize. Nexer control centers are showing increased activity. They've noticed something's wrong. Sarah leaned forward. How long until they trace it? 3 minutes, maybe 4, Marcus replied. After that. Then we move now. Sarah cut in. All teams. Execute Phase 2. Breach and clear. Remember, we'll have minimal time before their security forces respond. On her command, the strike teams moved. Years of suffering under Nexer oppression had taught the Lyrani resistance every weakness in their enemies' security systems. Combined with human tactical expertise and technology, those weaknesses became gaping holes. David's voice came through again, tight with controlled tension. First barrier down. Moving to the stasis chambers, encountering minimal resistance, they never expected an attack from inside their own security perimeter. The tactical display erupted with new information as all 7 teams breached their targets simultaneously. Sarah watched as red dots, Nexer's security forces, began moving in response, but too late. The strike teams were already inside. Stasis chamber accessed, reported Strike Team Beta's leader. By the stars, there are so many of them. Through the video feeds, Sarah could see the horror for herself. Rows upon rows of crystalline chambers, each containing a child suspended in neural stasis. Their small bodies floated in a pale blue liquid, while complex machinery drew off their neural energy in pulsing waves of light. Initial scans confirm life signs are stable, Emily reported, her voice shaking slightly as she monitored the medical data. The quantum disruption is forcing the stasis chambers into emergency revival mode, just as we predicted. But the children will be disoriented and weak. Suddenly, alarms blared across all frequencies. Multiple Nexar warships detected. Marcus's voice cut through the chaos. They're dropping out of FTL at all 7 locations. They must have had a backup monitoring system we missed. Sarah's jaw tightened. They'd known this was a possibility. Stick to the plan. Teams, you have 8 minutes to complete revival and evacuation before those ships can launch their fighters. Artemis, execute Pattern Delta. The human ship decloaked, its presence finally revealed to the Nexer. But instead of one ship, the Nexer's sensors detected dozens. A fleet of phantom vessels created by the Artemis's advanced holographic systems. The deception wouldn't last long, but it didn't need to. Inside the facilities, the strike teams worked with desperate efficiency. Lyrani resistance members guided hovering medical pods through the rows of stasis chambers, collecting children as the revival process completed. Human combat specialists held defensive positions, their advanced weapons keeping the increasingly aggressive Nexer security forces at bay. First group of children secured, David reported, beginning transport to the underground evacuation routes. But Captain, they're not all Lyrani. There are children from at least a dozen different species here. Sarah's blood ran cold. The Nexer's atrocities were even more widespread than they'd thought. Get them all out. Every single one. The next 6 minutes were a blur of coordinated chaos. As Nexer forces marshaled their response, the strike teams fought a desperate battle against both time and enemy reinforcements. The quantum disruption had worked better than expected. The neural network was completely offline, preventing the Nexer from transferring their young prisoners to other facilities. But success brought its own problems. "Captain, we have a new issue," Emily called out. "The children's combined telepathic abilities. They're all coming out of stasis at once, and their minds are linking. The psychic feedback could overwhelm them." "Implement the neural dampening field," Sarah ordered. "Full spectrum." The dampening field spread out from devices the strike teams had carried in, creating zones of psychic silence that protected the children's recovering minds. But it also had an unexpected effect. The Nexer, who relied partly on psychic technology for their weapons targeting, found their systems malfunctioning. 4 minutes until those warships can launch fighters," Marcus warned. "Strike teams Charlie and Echo report full evacuation complete. Delta and Foxtrot at 80%. Others still in progress." Sarah watched the tactical display, calculating odds and options. The Nexer ships were moving into attack positions, no longer fooled by the holographic fleet. Soon, they would open fire, and the Artemis couldn't hold them all off alone. "Captain," Araya's calm voice cut through her thoughts. "I'm detecting new quantum signatures, multiple ships emerging from FTL." Sarah's heart sank, expecting Nexer reinforcements. But the signatures were different. Through the command center's windows, she saw flashes of light as ships appeared in the sky above. Human ships. The backup they'd requested had arrived. "This is Admiral Helena Martins of the Earth Defense Fleet," a new voice announced on all channels. "I see you started the party without us, Captain Chen." Relief flooded through Sarah, but she kept her voice steady. "Admiral, we have thousands of rescued children being evacuated through underground routes. We need those Nexer ships occupied for about 3 more minutes." "Consider it done," Helena replied. "All ships, defensive pattern Theta. Let's introduce ourselves to the Nexer properly." As human warships engaged the Nexer fleet above, the last of the children were rushed to safety below. The strike teams began their withdrawal, laying charges to destroy the neural processing equipment as they retreated. They couldn't save every child the Nexer had taken over the years, but they could ensure no more would suffer in these facilities. David's team was the last to clear their target. "Final group secured," he reported. "Charges set. On your command, Captain." Sarah looked at Elder Vress, whose patterns now pulsed with a mixture of grief and fierce joy. She thought of all the faces on the memorial wall, and of the children now safe below ground. "End it," she ordered. Across 7 locations, neural processing facilities erupted in carefully controlled explosions, taking with them the machinery of suffering that had imprisoned innocent children for so long. Above, human ships demonstrated exactly why challenging Earth's military was a grave mistake. The first phase of Operation Sanctuary was complete, but Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The Nexer's crimes stretched across multiple star systems, and humanity had just declared itself their enemy. As she watched the facilities burn, Sarah made a silent promise to every child who had suffered in those chambers. The galaxy was about to change. Humanity would make sure of it. The underground sanctuary beneath the crystalline mountains had never been meant to hold thousands. Captain Sarah Chen walked through the makeshift medical bay, where rescued children from a dozen different species lay recovering. Some slept peacefully for the first time in years, while others stared with haunted eyes at their saviors. "Their neural patterns are stabilizing," Dr. Emily Harrison reported, checking readings on her medical scanner. "But the psychological trauma, it's beyond anything we've encountered before. They were conscious during the energy extraction. Sarah, they felt everything." A small Lyrani child reached out as Sarah passed, luminescent patterns flickering weakly across their skin. Without hesitation, she took their hand, feeling the slight tremor that ran through their small frame. How many different species have we identified? 14. Commander David Okafor answered, joining them. His uniform still showed signs of the battle they'd fought hours earlier, each with their own physiological needs, their own psychological trauma patterns. We're doing our best, but we're stretched thin. Above ground, the situation was equally complex. Admiral Martinez's fleet had driven off the Nexer forces, but everyone knew it was only temporary. The Nexer Collective controlled territory across multiple star systems. This defeat would only enrage them. The quantum tunnel network is completely destroyed, Marcus reported through the comm. The Artemis scans confirm no active neural processing signatures within 50 light-years, but we're picking up increased Nexer fleet activity at their border stations. They're mobilizing. Sarah moved to a strategic planning room they'd set up, where Elder Vress and Admiral Martinez awaited. Holographic displays showed the positions of both human and Nexer forces across the sector. The Nexer have issued an ultimatum, Helena Martinez said without preamble. They're demanding the return of what they call their neural resources, the children. They're claiming we've committed an act of war by destroying their facilities. They're also broadcasting our actions across all major galactic frequencies, Elder Vress added, his patterns shifting with concern, but perhaps not with the effect they intended. Other species who have lost children to their raids are reaching out. Some are offering sanctuary. Others, his patterns brightened slightly, are offering military support. Sarah studied the tactical display. How long until the Nexer can mount a major offensive? 48 hours at most, Helena replied. We've got reinforcements coming from Earth, but the logistics of moving this many children. She left the sentence hanging. We're not just facing a military challenge, Emily interjected. These children need specialized care. Many of them have been in neural stasis for years. Their bodies are weak, their minds traumatized. Moving them too quickly could be devastating. A junior officer rushed in, their face pale. Captain, Admiral, we've got a problem. The Nexer just activated some kind of failsafe in their stasis technology. 3 children in Medical Bay 4 just went into neural shock. Sarah and Emily ran to the medical bay, where Lyrani healers were already working frantically. The children's bodies convulsed as residual Nexer technology within their neural pathways activated, attempting to complete one final extraction. They built this into them, Emily snarled, her hands flying over medical equipment. A last resort weapon to punish anyone who tried to free them. Those monsters. For 6 desperate hours, human medical technology combined with Lyrani healing abilities in a race to save not just these 3 children, but all of them. The Nexer failsafe was spreading, threatening to claim the very lives they'd fought to save. I think I found it, Kyra, the young Lyrani scientist, called out. She'd been analyzing the neural patterns of affected children. The failsafe isn't just technology, it's partially psychic. The Nexer designed it to trigger through the children's own fear response. As they wake up and remember what happened to them, their trauma becomes a weapon, Emily finished. But that means we can break the cycle, Sarah realized. Not with technology, but with compassion. The opposite of what the Nexer used to trap them. What followed was unlike anything in human military history. As Admiral Martinez's fleet prepared for the coming Nexer assault, the underground sanctuary became a place of healing. Human and Lyrani worked together, using their combined empathy and understanding to help the children process their trauma before it could trigger the failsafe. David organized the rescued children into small groups, matching species with similar neural patterns. Emily and Kara developed a treatment protocol that combined human psychological techniques with Lyrani telepathic healing. The children who recovered first helped with those still struggling, creating bonds that transcended species. But time was running out. Nexer fleet movements suggested they were gathering for a massive assault. The rescued children were starting to recover, but they were far from ready for evacuation. We can't move them yet, Emily insisted during an emergency council. The neural dampening field is barely keeping them stable. If we try to evacuate now, we'll lose half of them to the failsafe. If we don't evacuate, we might lose all of them to the Nexer, Helena countered. Our fleet is strong, but we can't hold off their entire empire indefinitely. Sarah stood at the center of the debate, feeling the weight of thousands of young lives in her hands. Through the medical bay windows, she could see human crew members reading stories to Lyrani children, sharing meals with young ones from distant worlds, offering comfort to those still too scared to sleep. We're not just fighting to save their lives, she said finally. We're fighting to save their future, their hope. If we evacuate now, we'll be confirming their worst fears, that safety is an illusion, that comfort can be ripped away at any moment. We need to break that cycle of trauma, or the Nexer win even in defeat. How long do you need? Helena asked. Sarah looked to Emily and Kara. The human doctor and Lyrani scientist shared a glance before Emily answered. With the current progress rate, 36 hours minimum before we can safely move the most stable groups. The others. Then that's what we'll give you, Helena decided. The Earth Defense Fleet will hold the line, not just for these children, but for every child the Nexer might target in the future. As the council dispersed to prepare for the coming battle, Sarah returned to the medical bay. The small Lyrani child who had reached for her earlier was sitting up now, their patterns showing the first hints of joy they'd seen in any of the rescued children. The Nexer thought they could use these children's capacity for emotion against them, Sarah said softly to David, who had joined her. But they didn't understand what they were really harvesting. Not just neural energy, but hope, resilience, the ability to heal and grow stronger. And now? David asked. Sarah watched as more children began to show signs of recovery, their natural resilience reinforced by human compassion and Lyrani healing. Now we show the galaxy that humanity doesn't just fight the monsters. We help heal what they try to break. Above them, the fleet prepared for battle. But here, in this underground sanctuary, a different kind of victory was already being won. The price of compassion might be high, but to humanity, it was always worth paying. The void above Lyra blazed with the light of battle. The Nexer Collective had returned with their full might, a fleet of over 300 warships determined to reclaim their neural resources. But they found something they hadn't expected: humanity's unwavering stand against tyranny. Admiral Helena Martinez's voice carried across all frequencies as the Nexer fleet approached. This is your final warning. These children are under Earth's protection. Any attempt to reclaim them will be met with the full force of the human defense fleet. The Nexer's response came in the form of energy beams that lit up space, but the human fleet was ready. Months of studying the destroyed processing facilities had revealed weaknesses in Nexer technology. Their reliance on neural-based targeting systems made them vulnerable to the very dampening fields protecting the rescued children. All ships, execute Pattern Omega, Helena commanded. Show them why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our determination to protect the innocent. Below ground, Captain Sarah Chen monitored the battle from the sanctuary's command center. The last 36 hours had been a race against time, strengthening the children's neural pathways against the Nexer's failsafe while preparing for the inevitable assault. Neural patterns holding steady, Emily reported, her eyes fixed on medical readouts. The first groups are ready for evacuation as soon as we have a clear corridor. David burst into the command center. Captain, we've got incoming transmission. Not from the Nexer, from the Galactic Council. The holographic display flickered to life, showing representatives from dozens of spacefaring civilizations. Their faces showed varying degrees of shock and outrage as they viewed the evidence humanity had broadcast. Detailed records of the Nexer's crimes, compiled from their own facility databases. The Council has reviewed Earth's evidence, announced the Arturian speaker, their crystalline form vibrating with controlled fury. The Nexer Collective stands accused of crimes against sentient beings. Their actions violate not just our laws, but the very foundations of civilized space. Sarah stepped forward. With respect, Speaker, we don't have time for deliberations. There are thousands of traumatized children here who need immediate assistance. We are not here to deliberate, Captain Chen, the speaker replied. We are here to act. Multiple council species report missing children matching those you've rescued. The Nexer's crimes stretch further than even you discovered. The speaker's crystal structure pulsed with determination. The council hereby authorizes immediate military intervention. All available forces are directed to assist the human defense fleet. Space lit up again as ships from a dozen species emerged from FTL, surrounding the Nexer fleet. The balance of power shifted instantly, but the Nexar had one final card to play. New energy signature detected. Marcus called from the Artemis. They're powering up some kind of massive neural pulse weapon. If that hits the planet, it would trigger every failsafe they ever implanted. Emily finished, horror in her voice. Not just in the children we rescued, but in any being they ever experimented on. The death toll would be catastrophic. Sarah's mind raced. The Nexer were revealing their true nature to the galaxy, willing to sacrifice countless lives rather than face justice. But in their desperation, they'd made a crucial mistake. Kyra, she called to the young Lyrani scientist. The neural pulse, it would have to use the same basic principles as their extraction technology, right? The same frequencies. Kyra's patterns flashed with sudden understanding. Yes, and we've spent days learning exactly how to counter those frequencies to protect the children. Admiral Martinez, Sarah called through the command channel. We need to modify the fleet's shields to match the frequency of our neural dampening field. Channel everything through the primary deflectors. The power requirements would be massive, Helena warned. We'd be defenseless. They've already shown their ultimate weapon. Sarah countered. Either this works or nothing else will matter. Across the human fleet, power was diverted to shield emitters. The Nexer weapon reached full charge, its malevolent energy building to a crescendo. When it fired, its pulse rippled across space like a wave of pure malice. But it never reached its targets. The modified shields caught the pulse, channeling its energy through the same dampening frequencies that had protected the rescued children. In a moment of poetic justice, the Nexer's weapon was turned into a massive neural feedback loop. The effect on their fleet was immediate and devastating. Their neural-based systems overloaded, ships went dark, and their carefully maintained control began to crumble. Multiple new contacts. Marcus reported jubilantly. Uprising on Nexer ships, their slave crews are breaking free. The neural pulse. It must have disrupted their control implants. The battle turned into a rout. As Galactic Council forces moved in to secure Nexer vessels, the truth of their empire's structure became clear. Much of their fleet had been operated by beings from conquered worlds, kept in line through neural control technology. With those bonds broken, the Nexer's power base collapsed. Hours later, Sarah stood in the sanctuary's medical bay, watching as children were reunited with families who had thought them lost forever. Species that had been enemies found common ground in their shared suffering and healing. The Lyrani, their world finally free, began the long process of rebuilding. The Council is implementing what they're calling the Guardian Protocol, Helena reported, joining her. New laws and task forces specifically designed to prevent anything like this from happening again. They want Earth to take a leading role. Sarah watched as a human medic taught a group of children from different species a simple Earth game, their laughter echoing through halls that had known only silence and fear. We'll do more than guard against darkness, she said. We'll help build something better. The Nexer believed that harvesting neural energy was the path to power. Emily added, her earlier anger replaced by determination. They never understood that true strength comes from protecting and nurturing that energy, helping it grow naturally. In the days that followed, ships from across the galaxy arrived at Lyra. Not warships this time, but vessels bringing medical supplies, reconstruction aid, and specialists in trauma recovery. The story of humanity's stand against the Nexer spread, not just as a tale of military victory, but as a testament to the power of compassion in the face of cruelty. The children recovered, carried forward by their own resilience and the combined dedication of those who had fought to save them. Some would return to their homeworlds, while others, their original homes lost to time, would find new families among the stars. But all would remember that in their darkest hour, humanity had refused to look away. In the end, the Nexers' greatest fear had been realized, but not in the way they had imagined. The neural energy they had so greedily sought to harvest had indeed changed the galaxy. Not through extraction and exploitation, but through the connections forged in resistance and recovery, through the bonds created when beings from across the stars came together to protect the innocent. The Guardian Protocol became more than just a set of laws. It became a symbol of humanity's promise to the galaxy, that wherever darkness threatened the innocent, humanity would be there, standing ready not just to fight, but to heal, to protect, and to help build a better future among the stars.